What's going on, guys? This is Eric Braun, and this is the Realtor Spotlight. We're back with the episode, and the guests that we're bringing in are not going to disappoint. We have Nick and Nat. We cover their origin story, some funny stuff mixed in, mindset, and also some tips for buyers and sellers. Hope you guys enjoy, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Today we got Nick and Nat. What's going on, guys?
What's going on?
Thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure meeting you guys a few weeks ago, and your story is really interesting, so I wanted to bring you on the show. So why don't you quickly introduce yourself for the viewers who don't know you? Definitely mention your ages, because I think that's pretty unique in our industry. Maybe how you got started, just a quick little intro. Yeah.
I'm Natalie.
I'm Nick.
And our Instagram is Sold by Nick and Nat. We got started last year. We got licensed. We've been in it for a couple months. I'm 19 and he's 18.
And a couple months in the business, obviously young, especially for our industry, but you guys already have a few deals under your belt, and you're already helping a good amount of families, which is really, really cool. Really cool to watch, and it's inspiring. So for somebody who is getting started young, what would you give them as, what advice would you give them for navigating the industry, either just new or just in young in general?
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest piece is don't waste your time at school. School is not going to teach you how to communicate with people. School is not going to teach you how to think out of the box. It's not going to teach you how to be creative. It's going to teach you how to think one way, only one answer is right, and that's not how the world is. And you got to be creative. The school doesn't teach you to be creative. They teach you to open the book, read, and find the answer. When in reality, there can be a million different answers. Find out which one works with you, but also find out how to communicate with different people. Because some people like direct. Like for me, I know I like direct. I don't like the sugarcoating. I like right to the point. Tell me what it is. Some people see that as you're being harsh, you're being rude. So you have to understand to not just talk like that, but to explain it in a different set.
Yeah. Right.
Like we have buyers who sometimes they're newer. So like our most recent one, she's newer. She doesn't understand everything. And if you go too direct, she almost gets nervous and shuts down. Right. So you can't talk like that. You have to almost lay it out in like a smoother sense. Right. But then the buyers who are older and who think that they understand everything, you say it to them directly, and that gets the point across better for them.
What about you?
I think a good piece of advice is to not take other people's shit. I mean, like, you're young, you're in the business. Some people might not take your work ethic serious. They might think that you don't know what you're doing, or you're on social media and you just want to be like a social media guru. But that's not how it is. Like, if you want to build a brand, you want to get your name out there, social media is the way. Like, these flyers, these mailers, the traditional way, it might work, but it doesn't work for everyone. So do what you want to do, like put your own touch to it, and just be different, because there's so many people who have their license, but who really like works to get there, like who really works to sell 30 plus homes a year. Right. Like, there's no cap, just push yourself and just keep going. And like, I think that it's super important for people to like you said, know how to communicate, read the room, read the different buyers, the different agents, and be able to like handle those situations.
And just to speak on what you were talking about, Nick, when it comes to college, so for me, I didn't go to college. I think I signed up for college maybe 2 or 3 times. Like, I paid like the application fee. I know I didn't even take the SATs because I knew I wasn't going to go to college, because my whole plan coming out of high school was to go into the military. One thing led to another. That's not what ended up happening. But for somebody who is on the fence with college, do you think it just depends on what you're trying to do with your life and what profession you're trying to do? Or do you think like society is just like jamming it down everybody's throat to go to college, go to college, go to college?
I think it's definitely a mix of both, because there's some industries that like it makes sense. Like if you want to become an attorney or you want to become a paralegal, you have to know the law, and that's textbook stuff. Right. But if you're like, for me, like that was my plan too. Weirdly enough, I didn't take the SATs. When people were talking about it, I was like, I would look at them and I'd be like, you're a nerd. Like, who cares? I wasn't supposed to go to school. I went to a semester. But yeah, my plan is I wanted to go into the military out of it. I just thought like, oh, I'll be like one of those big jack guys. And that was my thought.
You watch too many movies?
I watched way too many. We still watch too many movies. And I'm like, we watched a movie yesterday, and I was like, I'd kill it in there. I was like, I'd be a badass. But it just depends on the person you are, how you're wired. But school today is different.
Yeah.
Parents really force it on their kids, but it's like you're paying $80,000 to go to school for your kid to fail this class. Like, all they do is party.
Right.
Like, that's like the hard truth of it. They're just partying in school. So what's the point of going when you can actually do something productive with your life, grow relationships, meet new people, and do something that you enjoy?
Yeah.
Like, I thought for the longest time real estate was like, I was an intern at one point, and I was like, no, this isn't for me. But it always kept coming back. It always kept popping up for some reason.
Right.
And then now we got into it, and we're like, we work 7 days a week, but we don't work 1 day a week.
Right.
You know, like, it's just enjoyable.
Right.
Every person's different. Every interaction with someone's different. And it's just, there's so much excitement. And there's so much work that goes into it that we love.
I think, in some ways, like I wish I went to school for the experience. Mm-hmm. Obviously, looking back at it, I wouldn't change a thing on my life. But I think a lot of people go expecting to come out of college and do something with their degree and to have a job in that field, and it just doesn't work out that way. So I think the world is changing. I think more and more people are starting to realize that. What do you think made you realize that at such a young age? Because most people would just follow what society says to do, and most people also, just aside from school, just speaking to you guys off camera, you have a very different mindset than most 25-year-olds, most 29-year-olds, right? So, I'll be 29 next month, but I'm basically there, hopefully, God willing. So, what do you think made you come to that conclusion and be so different than a normal 18 and 19-year-old?
Well, I was never, from kindergarten, I was never a school kid.
Gotcha.
I was in special ed classes from kindergarten to 12th grade my entire life. I was in 3rd grade reading kindergarten level books, and then I was in 6th grade reading 3rd grade level books. Like, I mean, the books with one line on each page. Like, I never passed the times tables.
Right.
You know, they tell you you're gonna be held back if you don't pass it. I didn't even get through the pluses. That's how bad I was. It never clicked for me. But there was other things that did. Like, for instance, when gaming was big, because everyone goes through that.
Right.
Like, when computers, like the big desktop computers came out, like 1 week I knew the entire computer like the back of my hand.
Right.
So like there was things that like just clicked, that just made sense.
Right.
And what I figured out is I love learning, I love knowledge, and like being productive is what makes me happy. And I knew school wasn't that. Plus, maybe it was just like who I was around, like feeling like I was normal, but being told I was special ed was like, could have been something that just like completely clicked it off for me,
Right. Mhm.
which makes sense. I mean, if you
Right.
feel normal and you're in those classes, it's difficult. It's difficult for someone to like imagine.
Right.
It's weird.
It's interesting that you say like being productive is what makes me happy, because it took me a while to realize that. And I think if you're not pursuing something, that could lead to being unhappy and I don't want to say depressed, because that's legitimate medical thing, but being depressed, right? If you're not pursuing something, working towards something, I think we're wired to do that.
Yeah.
And I think if a lot of people just made that choice or made that decision to do something like that and to pursue something, they'd be a lot happier. Because I think if we're not living out what we were designed to live out.
Yeah.
So now you spoke about communication as well. I know for me, like I'm actually posting a video or an episode of the Mortgage Pro podcast where I interview this guy called Rene Rodriguez. I don't know if you ever heard of him. But Rene he's like an influence expert, and he's taught people that go on to do TED Talks. He's worked with some of like the biggest influencers on crafting their message and just learning how to speak and influence. And not influence in a bad way, but we're constantly, communication is like the most undervalued skill that I don't think they teach at all in school.
Yeah.
So going back to your original point, which is like school doesn't teach you how to do these things, that's probably the number one skill that you can learn to help in every area of your life.
Yeah.
Whether it's talking to girls, whether it's, not that you need to do that anymore, whether it's talking to girls, business, interactions on the street, like learning how to communicate is a undervalued and undertaught skill. So it's cool to see you understand that so early on. But back to you, Nat. So you said, what was your advice for somebody just getting started? Oh, to
Not take anyone's bullshit.
yeah. So basically, have you had experience with, because you're young, right? So have you had the experience where somebody doesn't take you seriously because you're young?
I mean, yeah, I think we have.
It's more other agents, not less clients.
Yeah, our clients our clients really trust us. If you present yourself like the way that we do, we are solely based on trust and loyalty to the process and to our clients. So they feel that. And then they're going to trust us. They're going to be loyal to us and know that like we got everything taken care of. So I think that that's super important for us. And I think that's how we're navigating to like overcome age, because no one really asks how old you guys are. No one ever really has asked that.
Right. And I can tell you, starting at 20, I always had that like in the back of my mind almost as like an insecurity. Like, why would somebody listen to me? I'm only 20, da 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 da, the story that I would tell myself. But every single interaction that I had with the general public and consumers always went very smoothly, and that was never a thing that came up. Now, when interacting with other professionals, there was definitely a sense of like, you don't know what you're doing, or you're just a kid, or you're young. And what's funny is, you have the classic, let's call them Linda or
Karen.
Marie or Karen. There's these like Long Island real estate, and that's not a knock on anybody that has those names, but it's just funny. But you have the classic Marie, let's call it. I did a video. You remember that video?
Yes.
That went viral, where it's Marie telling you, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing this for 30 years. But then you look at recent transactions, and it's like 2 in the last 24 months.
Yeah.
So how long have you really been doing it if you're not actually practicing it? So age and years in the business does not equate to being a professional and knowing what you're doing.
I said
100%,
that the other day. That's actually yesterday, maybe 2 days ago. I was like, when we think about it, we're not new anymore. We're not the new agents.
Right.
Like 4 or 5 deals in, we're about to be on our 6th. Like, we're not new. Like, we've done the listing side, we've done the buy side. Like, there's no reason why people just say, oh, they're new, because 6 deals is more than someone who's had their license for 20 years could have done.
Correct.
Yeah, we say that all the time. But we were breaking that down, because now we look at our age as like a flex. Like, and when we say it, like we say it because truthfully, like, you have 60-year-old agents in here who are saying like, oh, I'm realtors, and I can sit across the table, look at you confidently and go, yeah, but I'm 18. I'm gonna have more energy to you than that 60-year-old who's gonna have to go deal with, no knock on 60-year-olds, but who's gonna have to go watch her grandchildren or whatever. No one's gonna have our energy, have our drive.
Right.
So we started to almost like wear it on like our front, because it is. You were right. It's a security that you have yourself.
Right.
And
We have like less responsibilities, like he said. We don't have to go out of the way to go watch a kid or go watch a grandkid. Like, if it's 6 o'clock at night, you just get out of work and you want to see a property at 7, all right, we're scheduling it now. Like, we just made a quick video on our story. He was driving, he got a text from one of our clients, hey, can you send me this property? Like, I want to go see it. And as he's driving, I'm texting, I'm getting it scheduled. So like, having 2 of us being young, huge advantage. Like, it's working. I feel like it's like a domination.
It's you're changing your perspective on something that could potentially handicap you. You're changing it as you're from your weakness to your strength.
Oh yeah.
And Alex Hormozy talked about it the other day, where he's like, if I'm the number one company in my space, I'm going to tell you that the little guy doesn't know what they're doing and doesn't have the track record and doesn't have the experience. If I'm the little guy, I'm going to tell you that the number one company in my space, in the space, isn't going to care about you, isn't going to be as attentive, isn't going to you're just a file to them. You're just a number on a piece of paper, right? So I think it's a matter of perspective, and it's cool that you guys immediately, from almost day one, didn't let that restrict you and limit you. And speaking to like mindset a little bit, because we can talk about real estate all day, and we will talk about real estate more and maybe some advice that you have for buyers or sellers, but more focusing on mindset. You guys seem to be wise beyond your years. What is your, like, in following you on social media, it seems like super disciplined, like you guys are waking up early, you're regimented, like bring us through a normal day as Nick and Nat. Do you guys wake up super early, or is that all a front for social media?
No, it depends. I'll say some days there's like maybe like a Friday or Saturday, maybe like 8:30, but usually like 6:30, 7. Okay. Sometimes it's harder than others, right. But we try to get up that early. Gym, of course. Like 45-minute workout, nothing crazy. We've realized that spending like 2 hours, 3 hours becomes a waste of time. If you're grinding, no like sleeping between sets and drinking power shakes, whatever they're called, like, no, just like, let's get out of here. And then just ready to work.
And what does the work look like? So is there a rhyme or reason of how you go about your day? Are you doing something first? Second is, are you using a calendar? Are you scheduled? You also are posting content every day, so how are you mixing that in?
So we were posting twice a day, but now the meta hall switched up. We picked up on that because our second videos were dying and our first videos were going crazy. Right. But we'll wake up, and honestly, it also depends on the day. Because like you said, Alex Hormozy, like that's probably one of the biggest people like I watch and I like click with, because I love how straight to the point, how stupidly simple he gets. And I'll just wake up, and like first thing we'll do is we'll wake up and open up our laptops. And like anything that we didn't do last night, which is very unlikely that we didn't do it, or like anything that popped up during like the middle of the night, we'll take care of that right away. Yeah. Like this morning, I just posted, I updated stuff on our Google page, I updated stuff on our LinkedIn, on our YouTube, like just get that stuff out of the way. I think it's like cleaning it up, like getting the day set up where it's like a couple texts, send over properties to buyers, make sure that's all handled. And then it's like set the appointments now, go to the office, get some paperwork printed out, social media outreaches, DM everyone who follows us, DM people. Like we get a lead a day from social media, which has been great. So we keep on top of them, and we do Sunday emails. What else? Like throughout the day. And then we'll go to the working out part. But we really prioritize the work, because working out, you don't need 2 hours a day. I mean, I went and I got my personal training license. That's what I did before I was in real estate. Right. I got my nutrition coach like certificate, and like when you really listen to the proper way of doing stuff and then the gym bro way of doing stuff, like sure, the gym bros are huge and like some of their stuff makes sense. Right. Some of the stuff that the licensed people say doesn't, but you don't need 2 hours in the gym. You're actually killing your gains by doing that. I don't know if he's huge. He's probably in the gym.
But I'll tell you one thing about Train. Everywhere I go with this guy, somebody's commenting how jacked he is. Every friggin' where I go. So shout out to Train. You can put his handle here. We were interviewing I would say a popular rapper, for me anyway. Some people don't know who he is, Styles P. And we were talking about like health and wellness, because he has a pharmaceutical company, he has juice bars, and I think after the interview he was just like, he mentioned something about the gym and like pointed to Train. I was like, why do you assume he goes to the gym? Like digging at him, like, and why not me? Like he's like, I mean, look at him. So shout out to Train's biceps.
When you work out, when you have the discipline to go to the gym every day and you work on your body, you hold yourself in a different way. Right. Like the gym is the gym. People go there because they think that they're gonna get huge and go walk around and get all these girls and whatever, but it's really for us, it's discipline. Waking up.
You guys met at the gym?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. So it does work. So social media, because I think one of the things that you said when we first sat down. So you reach out to every single person that follows you. Explain that a little bit.
They follow us, they like our posts, interact with one of our stories, and we just introduce ourselves, let them know that we're here as a resource, and people appreciate it because there's sometimes like these big accounts like who have thousands, hundreds of followers, they're too afraid. They don't think that they're going to get an answer, but we're not so huge to the point where there's not a million DMs that we can't get to. So we take the time to really respond to everyone. It's not an automated text. It's like we truly like dedicate each text to that person. Like if it's like a couple we see and they just have like a wedding, like we'll go through their Instagram and we'll see like, oh, your wedding pics are so cute. Just to like show like we're relatable, we're humans too. Like we're not here for just business. We're here to like, you have a question, anything. You have a house, you don't have a house you want to sell, we're still here. Like
right. So any interaction that you're getting from strangers, and these are people that you don't know, correct?
Yeah, we don't know them.
So I mean, if every real estate agent just took that nugget and ran with it, you could easily close a few more deals a year. Easily.
We have a friend in Lancaster. Shout out to Christian. He's a realtor as well, and we like go back and forth. And he's young too. He just bought his first home at 24, I believe, which is sick. So we go back and forth with him, like feed off each other. And we told him like start reaching out to people on DM because he doesn't do it. And he's like game changer. He just started doing it. And he's like it's insane.
Because people also focus on, which we shifted our focus a couple of weeks ago. Everyone's focused on transactions. How many calls are you making? How many doors are you knocking? How many conversations are you having? Rather than, hey, let me actually build the relationship with them, because there is 24,000 agents, and like some people like will ask like, oh, like why are you the best? And it's like I want you to like me for me, because there's 24,000 of us. If you don't like us, you're not going to use us.
Yeah.
So we're more focused on building a relationship with them and seeing if we click versus anything else.
And I think what you said about the big accounts, I think you'd be surprised that a lot of the big accounts will actually respond to you, and it's that person, and they'll send a voice memo, and that is why.
Yeah, someone actually did that to us.
That is why they got that big, because, I mean, if you just post a bunch of content, yeah, you're going to get some following, you're going to get some brand recognition, etc. But what really drives following is relationships, and if you look at social media from that perspective of everybody that follows you, everybody that interacts with you, they like giving yourself to them in whether it's a quick DM back or reply to a comment or being, a resource. Yeah. That's how you, now all of a sudden that person is now a super follower that's sharing your stuff. Yeah. Now all of a sudden that person runs into somebody, they're not buying a house or selling, but they run into somebody that is buying a house or selling. And they're like, you need to hit up Nick and Nat. And there's a guy, Ed Stulak. I don't know if you guys know him. He's a realtor out in Jersey. Nice guy. He talks about digital door knocking. So it's essentially, the strategy that you guys do where it's cold DMs. Yeah. Now yours are a little warmer because you're choosing people that are interacting with your content and following you on a daily basis. So that is a great place to start because those people are a little bit warmer. What he does is a little bit more sketchy or a little bit more out there. Mm-hmm. He'll actually go to like hashtags and Long Island real estate or Long Island actually.
We do that on Facebook. It's random.
Hashtag Long Island, and he'll just start following, messaging. He'll send videos like, hey, just want to introduce myself. It's Ed. I'm a real estate agent in the area. Noticed that you like Joe's Pizza. Just wanted to touch base and just say, if you ever need anything, let me know. Mm-hmm. And he does that X amount of times on a daily basis. It's like carved out in his calendar. So again, like people, I was actually thinking about this on the way here. Social media itself is a very insidious it's an insidious marketing tactic. And I say insidious because a lot of the time people are doing social media because they like the side benefits. They like the attention, they like the likes, they like the comments. Whether you realize it or not, we're all wired for that, right? To be accepted, etc. And they almost continue to do social media not for business, but they do it for the other aspects of it. Yeah. And you almost have to ask yourself, what am I doing social media for? To build my business or to get likes and comments and followers? Because when you ask yourself that question, you go about social media in a different way. Well, if it is to build your business, then you start doing the relationship stuff. Then you start doing the valuable content. Then you start interacting and taking the online offline as I was taught. So I think a lot of people fall into the other bucket, and that's why you see a lot of realtors that are super active on social media, but they don't do a lot of business. So it's interesting, and you almost have to ask yourself, like, how often and how much time do I need to put into stuff like this before it begins to not be about business anymore?
Yeah.
Right? You guys are being very intentional, which I think if you look at every single successful person inside of real estate or out, whether it comes to fitness or in any other industry, the people who are super successful are the ones that are the most intentional. Mm-hmm. Everything has the thought behind it. Everything is thought out, whether it's how to craft up that email, that marketing campaign, what am I gonna say calling back and this client that called me. Everything is thought out. The process, systems, etc. Time, it's all about intention. So I think you guys are already demonstrating that super early, which is cool, because I know you guys are going to go far. So personal trainer. So, I mean, I didn't really ask you guys. I know from our off-camera conversation, but why don't you, like, how did you get into real estate? And then we'll go back to personal trainer in a second.
Mine's a funny story. I guess I'll start since I spoke first. So I was a personal trainer, but
that's how that works, Nick.
But I was a boxing coach. So
okay.
First I was in the gym with a bunch of trainers. There was like 20 of us. We were the top producing gym. And I was like, if everyone's doing, hey, let me show you how to work out, what's the difference between me? So what I did is took the whole different approach, and I built my whole business there off of teaching people how to box. I'd walk up to people on the treadmill and I'd be like, why are you wasting your time? I'd look at them, I'd be like, this is boring. Wouldn't you want to hit me? And they'd be like, what? I swear. That's what I said. And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, yeah, I have clients who've lost 30 pounds in a month, and all they do is hit me. And they love it, they laugh and try it out, and they like boxing. Right. So that's where I started. And then I walked up to a guy on a treadmill, and he owns a couple sales businesses. And he tried to, when I was trying to sell him on being my client, he was trying to sell me on working for him and selling frozen pizzas to different like bars. Gotcha. But then he was like, dude, you got to get into real estate. Right. And this was like the 4th or 5th time that like I heard real estate. And he was like, no, you should. He's like, you have the personality for it. Right. But he also told me to stay at the gym while I was doing it. Right. But I didn't do that. But he was like, you have it. You should do it. And then I walked in the house one day and I looked at her. I was like, I'm getting on the course with you. Then of course it came a competition of who's going to do the course faster. I won.
You won? All right.
And I started first. Like, it's embarrassing.
How did you get started?
So I actually go to school. I just finished yesterday. So
college?
Yeah.
Okay.
I go to
Congrats.
Nassau. Well, I went to Hofstra. I was going to become a lawyer. I was accepted to the BA law program, ready to go. Like, I wanted to be an attorney. And then I was like, I thought like really deep into it because like I was very good in school. Like not like we are total like opposites in that sense, because like I kind of agree with him. I didn't see school like, oh my God, it's some crazy thing. I just happened to be good at it. Like I didn't have to study. It was just all there. Right. Like I pick up on things pretty quick. So I would implement it. So I was ready to go to the law program, and then I was thinking about it like more in depth, and I was like, I can't, like there's no point of spending this much money. Like I'll be successful somewhere else. So then I was like, all right, I just have to go to school for something. So I was like, okay, teaching. I took a couple classes and I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Like it's not really what you think. Like he said, it's all textbook work. Like where's the hands-on? I thought like when you go to college, it was hands-on. It will get you ready for a career. Like you could be super successful if you go, because that's what you hear. It's like the societal norm. So then stepped away from teaching, and then I did business. Stepped away from business, and then I did marketing. And I was getting my real estate license in the mix of all this, because I was like, I'm around business all the time. My dad owns a business, my uncle, cousins, and I loved it. I helped my dad run his business in Belmore for a while, and people would always just be like, oh, your daughter, like, she knows what she's doing, like, she's got her head on her shoulder, like, everything's like squared away for her. So I was like, if people see that potential in me, like, why don't I see it in myself? Like, I could definitely like take my like expertise and like my intelligence somewhere else, where like I could be my own boss, I could do my own thing. So I started getting into real estate, and it was going to be a side hustle.
Right.
My mom's like, you know, you can't, it's a side thing. And I was like, but what if it's not?
Right.
So then I presented it to him, because I don't really trust many people. I always think like if you say too much, like people like put the kibosh on it, which they do.
Right.
But he was like open for discussion. He's like, oh yeah, like you could kill it. And I was like, okay, like maybe I can.
Right.
And then we just ended up clicking, becoming best friends. And then he's like, I'm going to get into it too. And I was like, what if we like did it together? This would be sick. So then we just like joined up, and then both like I was serving, I was helping my dad, and then he was at the gym, and then we just completely like sacrificed everything, and we're like, let's hone in on this. It's a job in itself. It's not a side hustle. The people who do it as a side hustle, like if you took everything and you put it all into real estate, then like it would just change your whole life.
Life would be crazy, but people aren't willing to make those sacrifices.
Right.
I made it so early, or we made it, is because I watched a clip of Alex Mosey, and he was like, the hardest decision for me to ever make was quitting my job. And I was like, all right, that's going to be the easiest decision I ever make. So I went to my boss before we even took the test, before I even finished the course. I went to him and I go, hey, I'm leaving at the end of the month. He didn't want to let me go. He was like, you're killing it here. Like, I don't want you to leave. But he was like, also, you're doing so good here. You're only going to do better somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I wanted that, everything that someone says hard, I wanted to make it the easiest decision for me. Because it like, I guess it's, I don't know what it is. I always like
A
doing my own
challenge.
thing. A challenge, but doing my own thing. Like if someone says you have to do this, I won't do it.
Right.
I don't know why, I'm just wired like that. But like I like to make my own decisions and like do stuff for myself.
Right.
Because also if you're doing things for other people, you're not gonna be happy.
Right.
You live
Yeah.
for yourself, that's when you're happiest.
So, so you had the example of like your family, business, etc. Real estate was a natural progression. Nick, you were a personal trainer / taught boxing. What about like your previous job helps you on a day-to-day basis as a real estate agent?
So, truthfully, having a job and being around people who are purely off jobs and how they think and how they talk like so bad about people who do their own things, or just like being talked down to by your boss. Like my philosophy is like we're all humans. Like regardless of your job or this and that, we're all humans. You're not gonna treat me wrong because you claim you have a higher position than me, when in reality, both have 10 toes as far as I know. I didn't see his toes. It just clicked, and I don't know what it was, but all like the listening to like the lifestyle that come out of it. Everyone's like, oh, it's so hard, but it comes out something so like that. Almost like drove me, like that lit a fire in me.
What skills do you think from your previous job help you today?
Communication,
Talking to people and stuff like that.
How I can talk to people, but also like if it's like a bad or weird situation, like I make jokes out of it. Like I'm always relating back to Alex Mosey because I just love his content and I just consume it. Or this might have been Andy Elliott. If you can laugh during, like for instance, when we were in the gym, you'd do like a trial training and then you'd go to the sale. If I can laugh and joke with the person during that whole trial training, why am I not doing it during the sale?
Right.
So I'm cracking jokes during the training, cracking jokes during the sales process while I'm grabbing their credit card, cracking jokes, making it all enjoyable because it's like why would you shut down? People go into this whole like sales, like this whole new way of sales.
So keeping it light and yeah. And then what about you? What about your previous job, helping your dad run his businesses, helped you?
I think my temper, like keeping it cool, because people could be mean, like he said, like especially in the food industry, like if if their food's cold, if you gave them back the wrong change, like sometimes like when like they pay and then they're like, oh, I have 25 cents. I don't know how much change I was supposed to give you. Like I just don't operate like that. Like I need to use the calculator because I want to be like, I'm very precise on things. So like people get pissed and like you don't know you don't know the change. So like just to be like be yourself. Like respect. Like, you respect them, they're going to respect you. Regardless of your age, the position, job position you're in, where you are at, if you give off like respect and confidence for yourself, it's radiant. Like, people are going to feel that, and they'll also be like, okay, like I could be myself around her. I could communicate well with her. So I think it's really keeping my cool.
Do you still talk to the guy that asked you on the treadmill or told you on the treadmill that he should be a real estate agent?
I haven't. I never saved his number. I have that problem. Sometimes I just won't save people.
You should find him. You should find him and thank him. It just reminded me of my story, which is I met this guy when I was 18, older guy. He always wore a suit and tie. He drove a Audi Q7, new, right? And to me, like, new German car, I didn't care what it was. Like, new German car meant you're rich. Like, that was like my view of the world. Like, holy crap, how could you do that, right? And plus the suit and tie, etc., the way he carried himself. So like, when I met him, I'm like, I don't know what this guy does, but he's got money. Because whatever. My world was very small. And 2 years later, I'm still in touch with this guy. And he asked me, hey, so I'm 20, he asked me, hey, what are you doing for work? And I said, nothing, I'm looking for a job. And he said, I know you like cars, you're always talking about my car. I know you like Audis. Why don't I buy a new A8, which is like the big boy Audi. It's like the S-Class of the Audi world. He's like, why don't I buy an A8 and you be my chauffeur? I was like, sign me up. It was like a dream job. I was like, that's where I was at in life, where I was like, that sounds amazing. For 2 weeks, I would call him and be like, when can I come be your chauffeur? Like, when you get in the car, when can I be your driver? When can I be your chauffeur? And 2 weeks of me doing that, going back and forth with him, and he always like shrugged it off and was like, I'm working on it, we'll get to it. He's like, after 2 weeks of doing that, he says, hey, come to the office, I have a real job for you. I have no idea it's an interview. I show up in a t-shirt, jeans, and this random office building in Melville, and he sits me down in this weird conference room. He walks out. I'm sitting there for like 10 minutes, just like in this conference room by myself. He puts a bottle of water on the table, walks out again, comes back, and he's like, all right, so here's your employment package. We'll pay you X amount per week, and that's it. I was like, so what do we do here though? Like, what am I going to be doing? He's like, well, and this was during a refi boom, not this previous one, the one before that. And he's like, well, we help people lower their monthly payment, take cash out of their house, all without taking any cash out of their pocket. Looking back on it, that was one of our rebuttals in our pitch book, because it was a telemarketing job. So he just told me something straight from the pitch book at the job interview. And talk about like keeping it super simple. But next thing you know, I'm doing a background check and I'm employed and in the mortgage industry 2 weeks later. And I have no idea what a mortgage is. So I started as a telemarketer for this guy. He was completely joking around with me about the chauffeur or driver. He is not that rich, right? Not chauffeur driver rich. It's just, nobody, in my world, nobody like says they're going to be a loan officer. Nobody. No kid has ever said that. There are more people that say I want to be a real estate agent, but I always like to hear people's story on how they like fell into the industry, because it is one of those industries that people fall into. And it's cool to think that person on that treadmill that day had an impact, just that interaction. And there was interactions before that, like you said, but it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to think about, because where maybe you wouldn't be in the spot that you're in. So let's shift to like where the market is right now. Just so we can clip this up and you can have a message to some of the people that are following you. Where do you see the market? Like, describe to me where it's at right now, maybe where it's going.
Super competitive. You can't wait around. You have to make yourself available, get pre-approved, go through the steps to get you in a position where you can submit offers and obviously get them accepted and get on to the next chapter of your life. It's moving too quick for you to be like moseying around, popping into open houses here and there. Like, if you're a serious buyer and it's a priority of yours, do everything, wash that away, and then get to the fun part. Go search.
Right. Yeah, that's and so what is the first step?
Get pre-approved.
There you go.
Because it's really, I've noticed it's such like when people hear it, they almost get scared.
Yeah.
But it's like when I break it down to them, I'm just like, wouldn't you want to know in stone what you can? I'm like, you're throwing out 600,000. What if my lender says you're not going to be comfortable with that?
Right.
You'll be comfortable with 500. Or what if he
Yeah.
says you'll be comfortable with 650? Right? You want to know what you can go look at rather than guessing.
Right.
It makes you feel a little bit more comfortable, and also people get nervous when they're starting to search. This helps take the nerves down. Just like, for instance, Jackie, the person we just had you get with, like got pre-approved with, after talking with you, like her nerves were going down.
Yeah.
After talking with us, her nerves went down. She was scared about everything, didn't know where to go, what to do.
It's just confusion. It's for a first-time home buyer. I always make the joke like, okay, you're probably, hey, you're a first-time home buyer? Yes. Oh, I'm sure you're confused, excited, and afraid all at once.
Yeah.
And the answer is always yes. And what we really aim to do with our pre-approval process is not just get you a piece of paper, but address those things so that you know what you're stepping into financially. And once you know and have the knowledge, then you're not confused or afraid anymore. You're just excited and you know what you're doing, and you can be focused and know what you're looking for and pull the trigger on things confidently. And who wouldn't want that, right? And I think a lot of the time, unfortunately, it's framed, get pre-approved because I don't want to show you a house without that piece of paper because I don't know if you're serious. Do you even qualify? Yeah. Like, that's how it's framed, and I think that's why a lot of times people get turned off. And also, let's face it, like, who wants to dig up their tax returns? Like, it's annoying. I've bought houses and I'm like, I'm very organized with everybody else's documents. I'm terrible with mine, like receipts and like keeping track, bookkeeping and stuff like that. Terrible. So like and most people are, and it's a daunting thing because it's not something that you have to do all the time. So framing it that way is definitely the right way. Now, what would you say to, let's say, people that are on the fence about selling? Forget buying for a second.
Why are the biggest thing they should really understand is, why are they doing it? Are they just doing it because they think they can get a crazy number for it?
Yeah.
Are they doing it because there's some sort of discomfort there? Like, people who are uncomfortable in their home, that's not a nice feeling. You don't want to be living in a house that you don't feel comfortable in. So understanding why, but also figuring out because there's so many of us, which realtor is really going to have your best interest in mind.
Yeah.
I can sit here and look at the camera and be like, oh, I'm the best realtor ever. You have to use me like that. But also, like, some like older people who are looking to sell their homes aren't going to love our social media, love our craziness, love our jokes. And that's not people that we're going to click with. But people who like jokes, who like our personality. We're not all jokes, but like our direct, like our personality. Those are the people we want to work with. And it goes the same thing for them. They should find people that they want to work with who click with them.
So figure out why they're looking to sell. Yeah. What are some common motivations on why somebody is looking to sell?
Discomfort
Money
is a big one.
And money's a little tricky when you're just in it for the price. Like, with how the market is, it's popping up in people's heads like, oh, my neighbor got $1 million, maybe I'm $1 million. But you're also built in 1950s with no updates that's going to be appealing to get that $1 million. So it's like, you really need to weigh out your options and trust a professional, because you can go for sale by owner and list it for $1 million and then waste your time and then waste other people's time to walk through the door, see your home, and now you have to host open houses. You have a full-time job already, so it gets messy. So when it's only based on price, like, I think it's important to sit down with someone, get a second opinion to really just like get a conversation going, get a second, like, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
It really makes sense, because I feel like some of the clients we meet with, one guy, for example, he's like, I want 1.1 and that's it. But then it's like, yes, your house is beautiful, but like, it's not like the comps around the area are also super important, but people try to like wash away from those because they think like, well, my house is built perfectly.
I can tell you personally that what, I hope he watches this. One of the loan officers in our office, he wants to sell his house, or wanted to sell his house, and he's like, I can get 1.2 million. And when you pull the comps, it's not there. But since it's his, he sees it in a different light.
Yeah.
It's like reality doesn't matter, appraisals don't matter, how a home is evaluated doesn't matter. It's like, no, my house. Like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
And this is a loan officer. So it's pretty funny. And we always like bust his chops and tell, like, you know how this works. Like, you know that 2 families in this area sell for this.
Yeah.
Why do you? He's like, no. It's also his personality. It would be funnier if you saw it firsthand. But yeah, I think there's a lot of people that see the craziness and they want to capitalize, which is completely normal, right? But they also need to have a little dose of reality as well. So what do you think are the biggest things that factor in to a home's value?
What we majorly look at are sold. What is sold in your area? Because you can list a house for 410, or you can list a house for 1.1, but that 1.1 is going to go for 99, right? Like, listing is completely different than what it sells for, and that's the market that we're in. Like, and that's one thing that people have to understand too, is what you list is not what you get, and also understanding that, look at your house from the public's view.
Yeah.
And I heard this, and it's so true. It's like, yeah, you want 1.1, but let me ask you something. If you were a completely different person, what do you think the public would say your house is worth?
Yeah.
Right? That's a big thing to look at and a big thing to understand. But I think a lot of people, and almost everyone, has some sort of stubbornness in them, and sometimes they don't want to see that, but it comes over time.
I think expired too. It's nice to know, like, you could show them, like, this is what 1.2, it was listed for 1.2, it expired. Like, it just paints the picture to say, when you overprice it, it's gonna sit. And if you're selling for like a certain time frame, if you want this to be a quick transaction, you're gonna have it sit for a year, and now, like, you wasted so much time at that price point rather than just taking the advice, coming to terms to what it's really worth, and then maximizing the profit overall. Because like you said, the listing price is the starting price. There's going to be, with the buyers out there and the competition, it's going, like, a realtor who's going to negotiate on your behalf and go back to these offers and maximize the profit. You should have no worry. It's not going to sit there. So it's really, like, again, trust. It's huge.
Right. All right. So I think we covered a bunch. I want to thank you guys for your time. It's really cool to see, like, a new generation. I'm a part of it. I don't want to separate myself from you guys, but the new generation taking the business seriously. And it's not TikTok fun and games. It's real. Like, deals are being done, and it's only been a few months for you guys. So I can't wait to see what comes from it. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you having us.